Unstoppable. The power of faith. Ava stood before the broken mirror, the reflection staring back at her like a stranger. The storm outside howled, a fury of wind and rain slamming against the windows. But inside the world was still, except for the thoughts swirling in her mind. "Am I enough?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the thunder. For as long as she could remember, Ava had felt like an outsider in her own life. It wasn't that she didn't have dreams. Oh, she had dreams. Big ones. Ones that made her heart race just thinking about them. She wanted to be someone who left a mark, someone who made a difference. She wanted to break free of the ordinary, to transcend the life she was handed, but doubt always held her back. She had spent so many years in the quiet of her own mind, waiting for someone to notice her potential, waiting for a sign. She thought, if she just waited, someone, something would come along and show her the way. But now, in this storm, with only her reflection to keep her company, Ava realized the one thing she had never truly believed. She already had the power. Her heart quickened as the realization settled in her chest. She had been looking in all the wrong places for something she already possessed. It wasn't some grand cosmic force that was going to come and guide her. It wasn't some mentor who would show her the path. It was within her all along. She took a step back, shaking her head. But how could she know that? How could she trust herself when every voice around her said she wasn't enough? Her parents, her teachers, even the friends who meant well. They all had their doubts. They saw her potential, but they never fully believed she could achieve it. It was always the same words. "You can do anything, Ava. But do you really think you're capable?" She had been chasing approval, searching for someone to validate her, to tell her she could go further than what was expected. But those words, those doubts, they didn't belong to her. They never did. Ava reached out, her hand grazing the glass of the mirror, feeling the cool surface beneath her fingertips. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone else. She didn't need their approval. She had been waiting for someone else to tell her it was okay to believe in herself. But now, staring at the girl in the mirror, she knew that was the last thing she needed. She wasn't the person the world told her she was. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't weak. She was strong. The storm raged outside, but inside her a different kind of storm was brewing. It wasn't fear. It was power. The kind of power that came from knowing that the key to her future lay in the belief she had in herself. It wasn't the talent that mattered. It wasn't the resources, the support, the perfect timing. It was the strength to move forward despite everything telling her she couldn't. Ava squared her shoulders, taking a long, slow breath, her eyes never leaving her reflection. It was time. The first step was always the hardest. The doubt would linger for a while, but she could no longer let it control her. She could no longer live in the shadow of what others thought she could do. Her fingers clenched into fists. It was time to believe in herself. With each step she took toward the door, the storm seemed to grow fiercer, the wind pressing against the walls of her small apartment. But the power she had tapped into within herself felt like a shield, an invisible force protecting her, urging her forward. Step, one foot in front of the other. She could do this. She would do this. Ava opened the door. The wind greeted her with force, but she stood firm. The world outside seemed daunting. So much noise, so much chaos. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She had the strength to face it. She had the courage to walk into the unknown and to become the person she had always dreamed of being. It's not the world that defines you. It's what you believe about yourself that shapes everything. She stepped into the storm, and it felt right. It was as though she was walking into a new chapter of her life, a chapter where she no longer waited for permission to be great, no longer afraid of what might happen if she failed, because failure wasn't the end. It was just a step toward success. The wind whipped around her as she made her way through the streets, each step bringing her closer to something she couldn't. "Twice fine." But that didn't matter. It wasn't about the destination, it was about the belief she had in herself to get there. Ava had always been told she wasn't enough. Too quiet, too shy, too unsure. She had been told that girls like her didn't get to chase the kind of dreams she had. She had been told that those who didn't have all the right connections, all the right skills, wouldn't stand a chance. But they were wrong. Her pace quickened. The streets felt alive now. Every person, every car, every building seemed to pulse with possibility. She wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was someone who could make an impact, someone who had the power to change the course of her own destiny. Ava smiled as the rain began to pour. The cool water soaked her clothes. But she didn't care. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside of her. She was free. The world for the first time felt like it was hers for the taking, not because it had been handed to her, but because she had earned it. She had believed in herself when no one else did. She had trusted that she was enough, that her power came not from the validation of others, but from the faith she had within herself. Every step she took was a promise to herself. To trust, to believe, to move forward with courage, and it felt good. The storm outside seemed to quiet as she walked, the world becoming brighter with every passing moment. Faith in yourself is the key to unlocking your true potential. Ava reached the end of the street, looking up at the towering buildings, at the world that had once seemed so intimidating. She had stepped into it. She had walked through the storm. She had believed. And that was the one thing no one could ever take from her. She was enough. The world didn't define her, she defined herself. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Let me know in the comments what ideas you would like the next story to be about. Please leave a thumbs up, share, subscribe, comment.